Issue number one for voters, the economy, not just a hot topic of the debate. Both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton focused on jobs on the campaign trail. Watch.
Since China entered the World Trade Organization under the Bill and Hillary back deal, 70,000 factories have shut down or left the United States.
We're going to rewrite the rules. We're going to create more fairness. And by creating more fairness, we're going to give people more of a chance to have better jobs with rising incomes. We're going to empower those companies willing to take the high road, companies who help to create good jobs.
This coming ahead of Friday's all-important government jobs report. Expectations call for job creation of 175,000 jobs created in the month of September. Joining us right now, Payden and Rygel Chief Economist Jeffrey Cleveland. Jeffrey, good to see you.
Hi, Maria. Good morning.
Your expectations for the Friday jobs number?
The last 12-month average for job growth, monthly job growth, has been right about 200,000 jobs. The last 3 months have been stellar, 230,000. So I think somewhere around 200,000 is a reasonable guess.
Is that enough to move the needle on economic growth? I mean, we all know the issue in this country, and it's a very small growth level.
I think we're talking about growth of 2% this year, Maria.
Not great.
We're not seeing 3% type rates of growth that forecasters for many years have sort of just plugged in and hoped for. So I think 2% is more of the run rate of the U.S. economy. That's the reality we're in.
I'm so glad you're here because everybody's so focused on jobs numbers, right? And everyone's like, jobs, 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 jobs. But I think the most important data point this week is today at 10 a.m. where you have the non-manufacturing PMI number come out. It came out last month, and the number was at its lowest in 6 years, and it was actually one of the things showing that it's a leading economic indicator, and we are approaching more towards a slowdown. We're getting longer in the tooth. So what do you think about that coming up? I mean, people are focused on the jobs, but what about the non-manufacturing PMI?
I think you're right. If you look at what the candidates talk about, they talk about steel and manufacturing. But if you look at the U.S. economy, how it's really structured, it's services. So today's, the services PMI, which did dip last month, it could have been a fluke. I think that's the caution from that 1 month of data that we saw last month. So if that does move back in a positive direction, that'll be a good sign. So I don't want to make too much out of that 1 month.
Jeff,
but it is important to focus on services because that's the bulk of the jobs.
This is about purchasing managers, right? Index.
Yeah, this is the non-manufacturing, right? Yeah. So the services. So 60% of our economy relies on this number, and so people were worried. You talked about it being a fluke. It could have been in response to the British referendum. It was an August number, so people were thinking maybe it slowed down because of that.
Jeff, can a policy fix by the next president juice growth? Could it happen?
It could. I think when you think about the big things that keep us in a 2% growth world instead of a 3% growth world, they're structural factors. It's not monetary policy. So everyone, is so obsessed with the Fed. Well, you're talking about fiscal policy. You're talking about tax policy. Probably biggest for me, regulatory. How do you get real growth and innovation in an economy? You have to have new firms, innovative firms they start small, but they get big. So it's not just small businesses, it's businesses that grow, that bloom. That's the beauty and the dynamism of the U.S. economy.
It sounds like you're supporting Donald Trump. His two major things are lowering taxes and rolling back regulations.
Not supporting any of the candidates, Maria, but I think if you do look at a lot of what candidates are saying and you're an investor, that could be dangerous. I think they're telling a story that they want to pitch, and that might not be the reality. I think investors need to focus on the reality because that's going to ultimately determine the market.
You just said 2% GDP growth, but we haven't even come close to that this year. You even saw the IMF come out and say 1.6%.
Right.
And that's a huge difference.
The GDP was 1.4.
First half has been weak in the GDP. GDP data is, sorry, Maria, is notoriously volatile and difficult. And the first 2 quarters of the year have been weak. I think the second 2 quarters will pick up.
John Hilsenrath was here yesterday. What did he say? That the economists are lowering their estimates for the next couple of quarters.
Yeah, I think in the last couple of days we've seen them come down a little bit when you look at real-time trackers of third quarter GDP. But I still think we can get to about 2% for the full year, which is not terrible. It's not a recession. I think if we roll the tape back to this group, January and February of this year, a lot of people worried about a recession. 2% growth it's not a recession. 200,000 jobs per month is not a recession.
Both candidates are talking about investing in infrastructure, a way to boost jobs, spark growth. Is that realistic? Or you see that happening?
I think that's a great talking point. I don't think that it's realistic that those types of programs are going to be implemented quickly, because it's not just the president that has the power to do that. You need a host of other characters to go along.
We passed a $300 billion infrastructure law last December. Why are they talking about hundreds of billions of dollars more? Sorry, you talk about wanting to reduce the debt, and there's a third of $1 trillion that's going to be spent on highways and infrastructure.
And it won't be.
Here's the fallacy.
No, it never is spent on it.
Here's the fallacy. Everyone thinks that we need growth, so we need to spend. So how can we quickly spend more? Let's do a stimulus program, right? Sounds good. But spending is not growth. Growth is new ideas. It's new knowledge. It's the innovation factor. It's allowing those companies to blossom.
Yeah.
That's growth. And so that's more difficult. You can't just flip a quick switch to get that. And so politicians don't want to talk about that, so they'll talk about the $300 billion stimulus.
All right,
it's easier.
Jeffrey, good to see you.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Jeffrey
you.
Cleveland joining us. Be sure to